The time now is 22 minutes past 5. Well, divers are planning to raise some of Barnes Wallis's bouncing bombs from the depths of Loch Striven. The Highballs were the naval version of the actual Dam Busters bomb, but it was footage of the planes dropping the bombs in Loch Striven that was used in the 1955 film.
Tonight, you're going to have a chance to hit the enemy harder and more destructively than any small force has ever done before.
Well, I've been hearing more about the mission starting mid-July from the British Sub-Aqua Club project leader, Mark Paisey.
We've put together this project over 2 years, and the aim is to raise 2 of these highball rounds to put into museums because there aren't currently any on display. So one goes to the Brooklands Museum, which is the home of the Barnes Wallis collection, to complete their collection, and one goes to the de Havilland Museum, which built the aircraft, the Mosquito, which would have dropped the rounds had they been used in anger in World War II.
Now, these highball bombs are different from the ones that would have been used in the actual Dam Busters raid, but they were the ones in the film.
So the Dam Busters raid used something called upkeep, which was the same technology at the time, and that was used against the walls of the dam. But alongside, they also invented the Highball, which was a spherical device to be dropped from a smaller, faster aircraft, the Mosquito, to be used against capital ships, namely the Tirpitz. And main reason it wasn't used was primarily because the range of the Mosquito was slightly too short to attack the Tirpitz at the top of Norway, where it was stowed. So although the rounds were fully operational and the technology worked, they weren't actually used in anger during the war. So it's a lesser-known story.
But a lot of these bombs were dropped to the bottom of Loch Striven.
So the testing for the operational rounds were mostly done in Loch Striven, and clearly one of the historical interests is really to tie up the recovery of them with actually mapping and seeing what's down there. So Loch Striven's interesting because it's called the Secret Loch. It was used for commando training, ex-craft training, and obviously these rounds because it is remote. So clearly, when I was trying to put together an expedition for the British Sub-Aqua Club, I was looking for something that was interesting from a historical point of view and diving point of view. I'm an ex-RAF fast jet pilot, so I can sort of understand what the Mosquito pilots would have been up to in the war. And obviously, being a diver, I'm interested in the underwater search and recovery operation in the loch, so it nicely tied the two together.
And how difficult is it going to be to raise some of them? Are they huge?
We're working with the Royal Navy, and the Royal Navy have got an interest because they obviously were developed for the Navy, and we've got a dive team coming round from Faslane, so it's a combined project. But the actual recovery operation, the loch itself is somewhere between 35 and 60 metres deep, and the bottom of the loch is silty, and it's fairly dark, but the water doesn't move very much, which is good. So the way it's going to be recovered is we're going to build essentially a square cage around the bottom of the round and connect a big lifting bag or a cable to the surface and bring the thing to the surface and winch it onto a boat. And the Navy have been brilliant in terms of providing support and obviously the boating facilities for it.
Sounds a pretty exciting project.
It is an exciting project, yeah. So it's a culmination of 2 years' hard work. As I say, I managed to bring together about 12 people from around the UK that are all British Sub-Aqua Club divers. The Scottish connection is particularly important because the original idea came through Ian Murray, who's at Dundee University, and he's one of the chairman of the Barnes Wallis Foundation, so he's got an interest in completing the Barnes Wallis collection. So it was because I made contact with him and went up to see him in Dundee that we managed to get the project off the ground. It's been a longer ambition for him than it has been for me.
That's the project leader from the British Sub-Aqua Club, Mark Paisey.